Welcome back to the Cheryl and Vicki Show, where today I'm excited that we are together, both of you, celebrating 16 years of Minnie's Food Pantry. And today we have a special guest, Erica. Welcome.
Welcome. So glad to be here.
I'm glad to have you here, Erica. We've been together for 16 years. It's a long time. It's a long time,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
What's it been like over the last 16 years? If I were to ask you, what have you seen change in terms of hunger? What would your response be?
From our humble beginnings
Yeah.
of serving in a 500 square foot facility, high-fiving when we served 5 families. It was like, we're making a difference.
Yes.
You know, we were, and just to see how it's grown over the last couple of years where we are feeding close to 5,000 to 6,000 families a month. That's very impactful.
Do you remember the times where when we started, we didn't have protein was peanut butter, right? And then what was the next protein?
Tuna.
You're right.
I remember that.
Yeah, tuna.
Yeah.
I mean, we had it down pat. Tuna casserole, tuna sandwiches, you know.
Anything that you could make that was tuna.
Exactly.
That's what we had. And then when we would get meat in, Sister V, it was just like we'd only give them one piece of meat and we would literally cry because now they got a peanut butter, they got tuna. And they got
and they have
real meat.
They have options.
Yeah,
They have
exactly.
options. They have options.
Absolutely.
What do you think the success has been for the Minnie's Food Pantry brand? What's made us different from everybody else?
Whenever, you had the vision to start Minnie's Food Pantry, one of the things that you taught me is to serve everyone like you would serve the person that you love the most, right?
That's
so
beautiful.
as people walk through the doors or come through our lives or just be in our presence, we not only just gave them hope, we wanted to make sure that they left with their dignity, with their pride, and of course, nutritious food to feed their families. So we have, instilled that from day one. It's just to see all of our volunteers having that instilled with them as they come through our doors to serve families. That's what impacts me the most. It's like people are leaving out with that.
Yeah, and when you talk about day one, a lot of people don't know this, but it was myself and Erica, your husband, my aunties, my mom.
Yeah.
Tell them about us getting in our cars.
Getting in our cars, and I'm not talking about these big fancy SUVs that y'all have now. I'm talking about little Honda Accords, trucks or whatever it may be, and we're driving down to Dallas to get food that we could bring up and feed our families here in Plano. Yeah. And this is like multiple trips.
Yes.
And as we started, Cheryl's voice, she does have that voice. She's a hunger advocate, for not just our community but nationwide.
Yes, she is.
Just going out and talking to the different stores, and so now, we get to pick up from this store, and I'm like, okay, you go pick up in your car, you pick up in your car.
Yeah, that's how it was.
But we did it, exactly. It was
did it.
divide and conquer, and we did that.
So I know that you have a lot of stories that are near and dear to your heart. Can you share one that you reminisce, a fond memory in the past 16 years that you would like to share with our guests?
I have so many stories. Oh my goodness.
Anything stand out?
I think the one that stands out the most to me is
I want to see this.
it's the sign.
The sign?
These, So I don't know what Cheryl was thinking to put me in charge of paying the bills and finances, but that's not my forte. And so we actually were, if we wrote a check for $100 to pay the light bill, we were happy because we just not have the money coming in, right? But we did have the heart to serve others. And so I remember Cheryl went out, of course, to talk to a group about Minnie's Food Pantry, and this group of kids came in. And they had did a drive that we didn't know what was happening. That's the thing, God's always working in the background.
Yes.
And you don't know what he's gonna bring to you when you need it the most. And we needed that the most. This was our first building, first facility. And
rent was due.
Was due. And
I didn't come to work that day.
She didn't come to work that
Okay.
day. And I called Cheryl and I said, you need to come in. She was like, no, Erica, because she would hide a lot of this stuff from me.
Yeah.
She's like, no, I'm working on this. I was like, you could work on it from the office. I said, but you need to come in. Literally, when she walks through the doors, these kids had this banner made up, and they had raised, I think it was
$1,325.
and
the amount
our
of our
rent was
$1,300.
So Cheryl walks. She
Wow.
walks through the doors. These kids are holding up the banner, and she just fell out. She was like, oh my goodness. And she was like, and I was like, you see, there is a God that, you know, that sits high and look low and see what we're doing, see how we're feeding the community, how we're giving back, and he's not going to leave us stranded.
And that sign said, when I was hungry, you fed me.
Yep.
And they started in September, and we needed the rent in November.
That's
And
right.
it was like God knew that we would need this rent when they
Absolutely.
started it.
Exactly.
And so they gave me the check, and we were able to pay rent for that month.
And it was just so powerful because how the kids raised the money is because they had little M&M jars, these little plastic M&M things in the containers, and they filled it with quarters, right?
They raised thousands.
And that's like the power of volunteering,
Exactly.
a voice, or just giving back. They took something small things, and look how it made such a big impact to us.
Huge.
And so now I look for a sign in everything. It's that sign for us to keep going and keep moving.
Yes,
and we find them.
Speaking of volunteering, how do you become a volunteer, and what age do you get to start?
Well, our volunteer opportunities, you just go to minniesfoodpantry.org or email volunteer@minniesfoodpantry. Volunteer Minnie's Food Pantry, that's my email address, .org, I don't even remember it. And we could give you more information coming up soon.
Yeah, and coming up next, we're actually going to have two of our volunteers from Minnie's Food Pantry, Brandon and Tracy Cherry, who's been with us for a long time.
Yes.
And they're going to share their story about how one can give back even as an individual or as a family. So stick around, because maybe you'll come too.